Blom kjemper for minoritetsspråklige barn og unge med funksjonsnedsettelse. Det norske fellesskapet blir stadig litt større, noe vi veldig stolt av å ha bidratt til. Siden 2012 har vi gitt samfunns aller mest sårbare kunnskap, nettverk og kulturopplevelser. Og da særlig gjennom Blom filmfestival, som nå fyller 10 år. Over 25 000 mennesker har deltatt på filmfestivalen siden 2012. Nå vil vi i Blom gjerne ha deg med på jubileumsfestivalen fra 21. november til og med 20. november. Bli med på vår 10-årsfeiring, høydepunktene av jubileumskonferanse med tema Ingen straff, men velsignelse. Husk at uke 47 også Awareness Week. Alle barn og unge skal ha like mye respekt, anerkjennelse og støtte. Alle har noe å bidra med. Bli med. Alle barn med funksjonsnedsettelse skal bli sett, verdsatt og hørt. Husk at du fin som du Du like mye verdt som alle andre. Blom filmfestival en filmfestival for alle. Vi ses.
All children have the right to a good upbringing. That includes the right to play, schooling, and positive social interaction. All children are unique individuals and have different needs. Some children live with vision impairment. Some children have hearing impairment. Some face social challenges. Others face emotional or psychological challenges. Others are living with chronic illness, physical impairment, or a movement disorder. Children who have been assessed by the educational and psychological services have special rights that their parents should know about. You have a right to assistance from a qualified interpreter, and you will receive information and answers to any questions you may have. If your child qualifies for services, you may have a right to special guidance. Parents may be eligible for assistance from a child coordinator to help create and follow up on their child's individual plans. Plans for children may include the needs of family members for services such as respite care. Your child may be entitled to technical aids, special learning aids, and/or living aids. Your child may also be eligible for user-controlled personal assistance. You may also be entitled to certain economic benefits or reimbursements from the Norwegian Labour and Welfare Administration, NAV, such as the basic benefits or attendance benefits. Parents have the right to appeal an administrative decision if they feel they have not received the help they are entitled to. You may also qualify to receive care services at your home, or your child may be entitled to help from a personal assistance. Participating in a parent group or attending courses can also be beneficial. Meeting other parents in your situation is often helpful and reassuring. The most important thing for us is to make certain your family is doing fine.
Hei, dette Farida Navagala, og jeg Bloms grunnlegger og leder. Blom blir 10 år i år. 10 år med hardt arbeid, men også 10 år med mange unike og berikende opplevelser. For oss og alle de som har hatt med Blom å gjøre. Det hele begynte med at jeg ble mor til en gutt med funksjonsnedsettelse. Historien har blitt fortalt mange ganger i norske presse. Jeg ville bidra. Jeg krevde å bidra til at funksjonshemmede i Norge, spesielt de med ikke-etnisk norsk bakgrunn, fikk leve gode og produktive liv. I 2012 arrangerte jeg Handi filmfestival på Filmens hus med mine egne penger og mitt eget nettverk. Og når jeg ser tilbake på det, så skjønner jeg det. Jeg kunne ikke akseptere noe annet enn suksess. Fordi jeg ville at målgruppen skulle få det bedre. Som de fleste game changers nektet jeg å ta et nei for et nei. Folk som hadde levd i isolasjon i Norges hovedstad kom for å treffe andre i samme situasjon. Foreldre kunne møte hverandre og utveksle erfaringer. Jeg forstod det at det ikke bare var mange av oss, men at samtlige var lei av å sitte alene i leiligheter uten nettverk, uten kulturelle opplevelser, så dette måtte jeg bygge videre på. Festivalen ble døpt om til Ablom filmfestival. Vi etablerte en organisasjon, fikk stadig flere aktiviteter og mange frivillige, fra noen få deltakere i 2012 til flere tusen deltakere i 2020. Vi fikk det til sammen. Helt siden Abloms begynnelsen har vi registrert at tabuer, vrangforestillinger og overtroiske teorier rammer mennesker som lever med funksjonshemminger. Mange velger å gjemme sine barna overfor samfunnet rundt og sitt stadig krympende sosiale nettverk. Derfor begynte jeg å jobbe for at samtlige trossamfunn skulle underskrive en erklæring om at funksjonsnedsettelse ikke er en guddommelig straff. Igjen hadde jeg bestemt meg. Jeg ville føre de religiøse samfunnene sammen for å takle dette spørsmålet om funksjonsnedsettelse som en guddommelig straff. Men det var ikke bare de religiøse lederne som fattet interesse. Kulturministeren, forskere, Oslos ordførere og mange flere ble med på prosjektet, og alle underskrev faktisk erklæringen. I år har Ablom blitt 10 år gammel. Da er tema ingen straff, men velsignelse.
Jeg hadde lyst til å være med på denne signeringen, fordi jeg tror det er veldig viktig holdningsarbeid. Jeg har lyst på å heie på de folkene som er med på grunnlaget for Ablom, fordi at de gjør en veldig viktig jobb på holdningsendringer i mange ulike miljø. Og så har jeg lyst til også å heie på alle de foreldrene som har fått unger med noen former for utfordringer, som jeg mener at de må få hjelp og støtte for å gjøre på best mulig måte. Jeg tror at det er mange som synes at det burde vært åpenbart, men jeg tror det er viktig å likevel gjøre det, fordi at mange føler skyld og skam. Uansett hvilken religion eller kultur man tilhører, så tror jeg mange foreldre har følt på det at det kanskje er deres sin feil, eller kanskje noe de har kunnet gjort som gjør at ting blir annerledes. Og det er holdninger vi må få bort. Vi må la folk alle sammen være stolte over barna sine uansett, og har lyst til å vise dem frem uansett, og få hjelp og støtte for at de ungene kan leve likeverdige liv uansett.
Alle barn er like mye verdt. Alle barn trenger å bli sett, og få anerkjennelse, støtte og hjelp uansett.
Så har jeg også hatt et barn med et annerledes liv, og hun lever ikke lenger, men hun lærte meg hvordan det er å ha et liv hvor man er helt avhengig av andre.
Jeg er selv stemor til 2 barn med funksjonsnedsettelser. Jeg har en søster som ble hardt skadd i en trafikkulykke, og gjennom det så har jeg også sett fra innsiden en del av de utfordringene som mange familier har.
Så at funksjonshemmede barn er jo et straff fra Gud. Tvert imot, nei. Det er ikke det. Og det sier vi nei til. Koranen vår har sagt at de barna er heldige, og de kommer til i paradis og blir fritatt for alt.
Og du? Husk at alle barn og unge med funksjonsnedsettelse skal bli sett, verdsatt og hørt. Velkommen til Ablom filmfestival 2021.
Mimi ni karaoke. Mimi whatever.
Mimi naitwa Musa Kokote, mimi ni Spring.
Naitwa Ran Minman.
San? Malabo. Sana.
Whatever kamar ke. Ini nak kali kok. Sama suri.
Waktu mini pepa bye.
Mamangu alitupa mimi kwa simu.
Tôi ame
Eto. Vea. Hakuna.
Mwalimu aku mimba.
Aduh. Tidak.
Sione sana.
mimi mano mimi si mtoto.
Niangalie. Simu sana.
Nikubali. Watu wanapenda mimi.
Ade. Nataka fupi.
In Kenya, we talk a lot about tribalism, but there's another ism which we ignore: ableism. Ableism is the belief that disability is an error or a curse, rather than a simple consequence of human diversity, like race or ethnicity. It's time to come together as a people, as a nation, to stop ableism. Lush Kenya is launching our country's first attempt to combine oral histories with radio production in order to stop disability stigma and remind each other of our shared humanity. If you have a story to tell about disability, or if you wish to help this initiative, please contact us at info@slashkenya.org.
I think that film deserves an applause. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 10th Annual International Film Festival of A Bloom. To navigate relations and cultivate relational competence is something, or a key, that we use every day in our lives. It is something that we use in our personal lives and something that we also use in our professional lives. As we simply are wired for connection. To watch a film opens doors to a new narrative. Sometimes these remind us of ourselves. Sometimes these remind us of someone we know, and others, they remind us of something that we've never seen. They remind us of something we might think we've known, and they may show a world that is completely new to us. For 10 years, A Bloom has aimed to highlight the importance of representation, on screen and behind screen. to see a diversity of narratives colors our perceptions and our understandings. Therefore, a beacon in a Bloom's work has been to advocate the importance of visibility of youth and of children with disabilities, and also the stories of their families and those close by. A Bloom has consistently worked to raise this awareness, and that in order to connect us and create righteous access and representation, to fight stigma and discrimination, and together lift equality and inclusion. Tonight, we will explore these topics, and we will dive into these topics. And without further ado, please welcome the beacon of a Bloom, Director Farida Nabagala.
Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Bloom Film Festival 2021. As a mother and a founder, as I am also a social entrepreneur, and I'm much more. Lately, I'm a writer. I believe creating awareness is very important. And I would like to thank the Japanese embassy for having taken us in, and they decided to work with us to make this day possible. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. And thank you so much for everybody else who has contributed to this beautiful day. And of course, the film festival started already on Sunday. That was yesterday. We started with a group of families and their children, as they are the most important people. And they are our main group. So they had a blast with cake, dance, and film. But already when I started Film Festival in 2012, I wanted this film festival to be special. And I decided film was going to be one of those tools I would use to invite people. If I think back and where we are today, wow, I must say wow, because this is wonderful. We began with one day, and this was one woman's mission. Today, thousands of people are gathering and following a Bloom. There are many other people following us live through our live stream today, and this is wonderful. For me, it's a dream come true. But when it comes to this special day, where we are today, we began in 2019, and that is when I met first time His Excellency, the Turkish ambassador, Mr. Fazla. When I went to him, I told him about a Bloom, and I told him about my dream that I wanted to create awareness. He took us in 2019, and that was the very first time we did arrange this kind of event for the international and diplomatic corps. So Mr. Fazla, we would like to thank you so much. You are a great man, and we appreciate your help. You've taken us in, helped us, introduced us to the Japanese ambassador then, and see where we are today with a new ambassador. Thank you so much for this. We would really love to collaborate more with more embassies, because the disabled need our voice. They need our love. They need our support. But all this cannot be done if we are alone. A Bloom can't do it on their own. We need help. We need support. So please, you heard all those voices. Those voices are our voices. We should make them our voices and create awareness, because they need us. I believe, since I was a child, that the people who were disabled needed us then. When I was a little girl, I grew up in Uganda, for those who don't know that I come from Uganda. And the disabled, unfortunately, were killed in the streets. This is how much hate and stigma they face out there. It's terrible, but we can do something. Thank God for that. So we should go ahead and hold hand in hand and announce this, that this is not shame. It's not a curse. It's not divine curse at all. These people are just like you and me. They have needs. They need love. They need respect. And they need to take space in their society, wherever they might be. And we who think we are normal, I don't know what that means, to be normal. We should actually try to embrace that and help the whole world raise awareness. So thank you so much for your excellencies for having taken Inner Bloom in such a way I would never believe. And I thank you so much and I hope that we can continue this beautiful journey together for many years to come. But as a mother and a founder, I have promised myself that I will never give up. And that will be the last thing I do. So I am going to travel over the whole world and make sure the disabled, wherever they are, they will be heard, seen, and appreciated. Thank you so much.
And to give us a little bit more depth, I would like to introduce Berit Berg from NTNU that has a presentation. And she currently works on social research.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start to present myself a little bit. Yes, I'm professor at NTNU Social Research, but I'm also a mother. I'm a sister, and I'm also an activist, because this field needs both politicians but also activists to fight prejudice and to fight stigmatizing attitudes. So when I'm standing here in front of you, I've been following the Bloom Festival since the very beginning. I wasn't at the first, but I was at the second, and most of the other festivals after that, even if I don't live here in this town. And I really say that I am extremely impressed by what Farida has done. She is an extraordinary woman. She is the founder, but she is also a mother of more children, but also a child with special difficulties. She is also a mother of a Bloom. And when I say mother of a Bloom, that means that she is more than a founder. She is described herself as a social entrepreneur. Yes, she is. But she is, when she had a child with special difficulties, she didn't say that many families do, oh, this is too hard. This burden, I don't know how to handle it, how to live this life. She said, this is not a burden. This is, you would say, a blessing. I would add, it's an opportunity, and it's a challenge. And it's not only an opportunity to live this life yourself as a part of a family, but also to help other families realize that this is no burden. It shouldn't be a burden, and we have to do this together to help people understand this. Human being is never wrong. And I'll start to tell you about the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, CRPD. It was created at the same time that you created the festival, Farida. I don't know if you knew it that time, and the ones who the UN didn't know about you. But the convention is about how we see people with disabilities, and also to realize that in all societies there are people who are different. And sometimes my colleagues in other countries, they ask, but Berit, you have to know how many people with disabilities are there in the world, or in your country, or in your town. And when I answer, I don't know, we don't know. Some people try to count it. They say between 20 and 30%, and they say no, a researcher couldn't say that. It's between 10 and 30. But it depends. It depends on how you define a disability or a difficulty. You see, I'm wearing my glasses. If I didn't have my glasses, I couldn't read. I couldn't write. I'm beginning to be an old lady, and in some years, I will probably need hearing equipment. If not, I would not be able to hear. And hopefully, I don't need a wheelchair, but many people do. And so, but if I have a wheelchair, if I have glasses, and if I have hearing equipment, I'll be able to live a life as anyone else. And if there is a lift in the building I live, I can go to the very top of the building. So how we define things is necessary to realize that it depends on how we define people. So the CRPD is about these things. But it also says, it makes clear that freedom, power, and equality are values that should be available to everyone, regardless of their functional ability. And to be quite honest, we are far beyond that. We are far from that in most of the world. In some parts of the world, we still think of this as a sort of as a stigma, yes, but also something that as a taboo. People are stigmatized, as we saw in the teaser from in the very beginning of this event. To say a little bit more about what CRPD says. In most parts of the world, there are deep and persistent negative stereotypes and prejudices against persons with certain conditions and differences. These attitudes themselves also shape who is considered to be a person with a disability in each society, as well as have contributed to a negative image of persons with disabilities. And you see the map of most of the world, at least. And the CRPD is not implemented or ratified in all parts of the world. I would say it's not fully implemented in any part of the world, near in Norway. We were early to ratify this convention, but we still have a way to go. But in most countries, especially in countries in the south, there is a long, long way to go. People are still treated as we saw in the teaser here. One said I had to live with the goats. Another said that people wouldn't see me, wouldn't talk to me. This is the situation in most of the world. So it's really a gap between the convention, the UN convention in this field, and what is the realities in most of the world. So we need more Faridas in most of the countries. What it says in literally, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities says it will promote, protect, and ensure the full and equal enjoyment of all human rights and the fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, and to promote respect for their inherent dignity. So this is our challenge to make this come true. And I also think this first sentence here, disability resides in the society, not in the person, is crucial for what this convention is all about. It has to do with how we fill the gap between the person's abilities and what the society is doing to make this gap smaller. The drafters of a convention were clear that disability should be seen as a result of the interaction between a person and his or her environment. Disability is not something that resides in the individual as a result of some impairment. This convention recognizes that disability is an evolving concept and that legislation may adapt to reflect positive changes within society. When Farida started A Bloom, even if it wasn't called A Bloom, but A Bloom is a very nice name. It's about how things could bloom, and A Bloom is then powerful itself. Farida sees film as a powerful tool both to convey stories and knowledge and to bring people together. And she said in one of the first articles I saw, I thought I need to create a meeting place where people can come and exchange experiences, or just watch a movie together, and perhaps there are some in the audience who finally get an opportunity to recognize themselves in other people's story. And I think film is a powerful tool, but also literature is a powerful tool. But in addition to that, I am sure and I know from experience that just being a part of a neighborhood, it's also a powerful tool. When we in Norway had the change in policy from segregating people into big institutions to integrate or have a sort of, this is our goal, to integrate people with disabilities in ordinary neighborhoods, and to also have access to school, to have access to kindergartens. It meant a lot, not only for them themselves, but it also meant a lot for the families. If you do not have access to school and to kindergartens, your parents are not able to go to work. And if you don't go to work, you will not have income. So it's a link between the new policy and also to being a member of society, not a poor people who people are spitting at. So it has a lot to say. So film is a powerful tool, but also to be a part of the very society is powerful itself. And I know it from experience. I have children, 2 children with disabilities. I call myself a parent, but actually I'm a stepmother of them, and I've been since the last 30 years. In addition to that, my sister, she had a severe traffic accident 40 years ago, and from that time she had also severe difficulties. And I know also how difficult it sometimes is to meet people who don't have a sort of the vision that the convention has, to meet them and also to fight for their rights to go to school, to be an active part of the society, and also for me to be an active part of society, and my husband. So I think we have a great job to do in different arenas. And the very first thing is to start with what is in my mind, what is in your mind, how do you describe and think of people with different difficulties. There is a lot of hate, there is a lot of stigma, a lot of stereotypes, and also taboos. But I think we have moved forward in some countries, and I also hope and think that other countries can do the same. All different, all equal. It's a sort of slogan that we had many years ago, and it was meant for people with minority backgrounds, ethnic minority backgrounds, but it also fits well into what we are fighting for with respect to people with difficulties. And sometimes you're double different from the majority. And in my own research, we have had several projects and also written several books on disability and minorities. And I don't think all of you should read these books, but what we see from that research, we see that people have the same challenges as anyone else who have children with disabilities, but in addition to that, you have challenges when it comes to understanding the culture and the society, the new society, and you also have language difficulties. So all these things together creates a lot of negative, a lot of challenges and a lot of things you have to try to fight on a daily basis. And I think we all should think about it. In this audience, I'm sure that you are not among the ones who have are against this, but you also have to think of yourself as a certain ambassador to see how we can fight stereotypes on a daily basis. What I hope we can do is to show equality in practice, to integrate people who are different, to combat stereotypical attitudes and taboos, and also facilitate for everyone to live full lives. And we have to also support families and treat them equally on a daily basis, but also in the whole society and also in politics. I finish my talk with showing you this, not because I know very much about that film, but I think this slogan, everyone deserves a great love story, I think it could be a sort of way of closing. Yes, I think everyone, they deserve not only a great love story, but they deserve a good life. So thank you, and we have a job to do.
Thank you very much, Berit. It's always good to have some facts in place, but there is one thing that has put us here at the same time, that has opened the doors, and that is the Embassy of Japan. And we are gathered here to watch a film that opens a narrative that we may not have seen before. And with that, I would like to welcome Chancellor Matse Smura.
Thank you very much. And Excellencies and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are very much glad that the Embassy of Japan was chosen as a collaborative partner with Bloom on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of this film festival. So thank you very much. And also, we find this opportunity to collaborate and reach out to the important topics as physical development and abilities and challenges, where we find common ground reflected in this year's Bloom motto, disabilities is not a divine punishment. Maybe as you may most of you may notice that, we had this year Tokyo 2022 Olympic and Paralympics Games, and under very special condition. But I think concerning the Paralympics, it is a well-known fact that the second Paralympic Games was already held in Tokyo in 1964. And this year we had also Paralympics. Therefore, Tokyo has become the only city which held Paralympic 2 times in the world. And also I'd like to mention that also Norway also has been promoting or in the field of the promoting sports for disabilities for many years. For example, maybe I have heard that one of the representatives from Beitostølen Sports Center is here, and because they have been arranging the lignende, the ski competition for disabled persons since 1964. It is very much coincidence that the lignende started in the same year as we had Paralympic game in Tokyo. And also, actually, this is my third time to serve at the embassy here in Oslo. And when I served as a cultural attaché about 20 or 25 years ago here in Oslo, I had a chance to be invited to the lignende. And at that time, His Imperial Highness Prince Mikasa, Tomohito Mikasa, came to Norway, and together with Japanese athlete to attend lignende. And also at that time, also maybe as you, many of your Norwegian people know that Mr. Erling Stordal, initiator of the lignende, so was very much active to contact the Japanese team. So therefore, Imperial Highness and Mr. Erling Stordal cultivated a very good friendship these days. This is an example of the Japanese and Norwegian relations in the field of the sports for disabilities and also recognition of the disabilities bilaterally. And of course, I'd like to now mention that also a bloom now is another example of here in Norway and for working inclusiveness of disabilities, as many of you mentioned. And therefore, Embassy of Japan here in Oslo is very much glad that we can now cooperate with you and Farida, also members of the ABLOOM, in this very important issues, which we should follow in the years to come, and also this evening we will show the Japanese film, which we call the film's name is An. An means sweet beans in Japanese. Maybe many of you may have tasted cake used by Japanese sweet bean An at the reception, and together with Japanese green tea. Yes, green tea matches very much sweet, Japanese sweet. Therefore, also there are some Japanese shops here in Oslo. You may have chance to buy Japanese green tea, and also I have heard today from my colleague that also Japanese sweet beans cake or cakes with Japanese sweet bean are sold in the shop in the Oslo. And actually, this film An presents dynamics between majority and differently abled in a realistic and very heartwarming manner. You can enjoy film, maybe which may start after my speech. Or some more? Yes, but I think, I hope this film also gives you an opportunity to reflect over this theme during this ABLOOM Film Festival. So at last, yes, I'd like to conclude by saying thank you once again to Farida and members of ABLOOM to give us the opportunity to collaborate with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I think it was very well explained. What we're going to see is something beautiful, and it takes a nice portrayal of the dynamics that we have with those close to us, and also the expectations that we have in society, and how they might sometimes not necessarily coincide with what's right. So with no further ado, let's watch the film Ang, Sweet Beans by Naomi Kawase. And we are live. Welcome back to the Film Festival of Bloom, the 10th one actually. We're going to have a little conversation about what we've watched and how it's connected to the different kinds of way we can work on visibility and awareness in connection to people with different difficulties or disabilities. I know that there's a discussion of what kind of words to use as well, so maybe we can raise our knowledge on that as well. I know sometimes I need it. So I thought that we can have a small introduction for you guys that are watching. My name is Amal. When I am working, I work as a producer, and I'm also the lead of the strategy for this diversity and inclusion at Internasjonal, which is a cultural innovation house. And when I'm not working, I lead a youth organization called Solidarity Youth. So I thought maybe we could do a round of introduction. I'll start at the end. Farida, please.
Yeah, my name is Farida Shakur Nabagala, and I'm a founder of A Bloom, mother of A Bloom. I'm a filmmaker, and when I'm not making film, I'm running the organization A Bloom and making sure that the film festival stands in place. And when I'm not doing that, I'm also doing other stuff like writing children's books. I am a lady with many talents.
Hello, my name is Esther Vujala, and I work for A Bloom as an international coordinator. And when I'm not working, I'm a grandmother. And I do programming, and it was me who picked this film, as a matter of fact.
Thank you. My name is Julie Ova. I'm head of Department for Film Culture at the Norwegian Film Institute. Before I started there, I can tell a little bit about that. It's actually, we run this Cinematheque as part of the department. And we also support festivals, among other cultural activities. And we support also distribution of international films in Norway. And when I'm not working, I'm a mother to teenage boys. I used to work for a film festival called Films from the South before for 10 years as well.
Hello, I see your 2 teenage boys and I raise you, I have 3. I'm Becky Parry, I'm from the University of Sheffield in the UK, and also representing ECFA, the European Children's Film Association. Very proud to be here on their behalf, and very grateful for the invitation.
Hello, I'm Marjo Kovanen, I'm also representing ECFA, European Children's Film Association. And I also work in School Cinema Association Finland, where we promote film literacy and film education for Finnish schools, and also school cinema screenings.
Thank you. So I thought we could maybe start with a quote from the film that we just watched that I know really hit me, maybe it did the same with the audience, and it goes like this: sometimes the ignorance of the world may crush us, then we must use our own wits. I was wondering if maybe you could share, I would like to start with you, Farida. Maybe you could share your experiences with that particular quote in regards to the work that you do today with A Bloom.
Thank you, Amal. That's a very powerful and very powerful message into that quote. As my understanding, we do have that problem where we ignore. And ignorance can lead to many things. It might be lots of reasons why people ignore it when it comes to disability. Maybe they don't have information and education about it. Disability. That's a very big possibility, as we have also got evidence through our work in the last 10 years that most of the people with minority families that are coming from different parts of the world really do not have that knowledge. They have no idea about what kind of diagnosis you find out there and what they're about. Here in the Western world, it's okay to diagnose somebody. But if you go to somewhere in Africa or Middle East or anywhere, they don't have this. And then they drop in here and then they hear all about this and they are like confused. And many other people also, when it comes to taboos, taboos are something people have had for generations and they are inherited from generation to generation. But it all goes back to knowledge and ignorance.
Thank you, which kind of leads me into Esther. You just shared that you were the one that chose this movie. Could you share a little bit?
Yes.
Could you share a little bit of why?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really not about gastronomy. Even if the title is Sweet Beans and they show us very well how it's made. But it's a kind of rather a recipe of good life. How to treat people. This old lady who just pops up like a fairy. That people has difficulties and then comes an old lady. It's not because I'm also an old lady, but comes an old lady with experience of a long life, and it doesn't only want to share the recipe of sweet beans, but also a recipe of good life. It's respect and put your heart to it, what you do. So whatever you do, your heart should be there. And then you just succeed. It's so easy. It's so simple that she respects the beans. She's talking to them. She respects the cherry blossom. And she respects every living being, not only humans. But she did not get that respect in her lifetime. So the only person who accepted her was this young man who had his own problems. And in the end, I feel when the old lady says that I would like to live in a society where there is sunshine or the sun shines. So she means that, yes, people with a disability deserve a society where the sun shines.
And that, I think you summarized it beautifully. You even shared one of the quotes I have here. But I think it also connects very well to the work that is on this side of the panel. Julia, Tuki, in the movie, she also says, sometimes you have to follow your own path. And the Norwegian Film Institute has taken a few paths, especially when it comes to enhancing representation behind screen and also discussing representation behind screen. Who's writing, who's filming, who's working with technicians and so forth. Could you share a little bit of why Norwegian Film Institute chose that path?
Yes, I think it is in due time, and I think it all has to do with representation. And I mean, it's very important that people that watch films can relate to films, and I think that's all about why film is so important, is because we can relate to it in a sense, and that means you're building identity, you're building societies, you're building human beings by telling stories, sharing stories and sharing bits and pieces of lives. And if that story is not representative for those who are watching, or almost half of the people that are watching the films do not recognize themselves in what they see, it's not relevant anymore. And I think that what we are seeing is that at some point you recognize that this is no longer charity. Representation is needed to make the film industry valid. And maybe that was the awakening that actually, I wouldn't say for the Film Institute, but to be able to get the industry involved. I think we need to see that it's even the commercial, or it is the commercial, not the artistic, that is leading in that respect, because they see that if you need to reach out to a broader audience, you need to show the diversity that exists in the society.
And thank you for sharing that, because it automatically, I think, if you want to stay relevant, you have to move with time, and time is showing that we have different demands now, which is I want to see myself on screen as well. I want to have the ability to affect. And both of you, Becky and Mario, you work with children, European Children Film Association. There we go. Did I say it right? Yeah. And we're lucky to have the perspectives of, you know, the international community here. We have Finland and the United Kingdom with us. Could you maybe share a little bit of your perspectives in relation to this particular topic of diversity and representation?
So I think from the point of view of ECFA, I think what's important to say is that it's really good for us to be here, to be listening and responding to the issues that you're raising. I think you're creating a really brave space in which we can talk, a space where you mentioned people having to take their own pathways. Sometimes we have to say or lobby or advocate for things that are not popular. As you say, you're kind of trying to change hearts and minds, go against existing cultures. So in that regard, I think these sorts of events and the festival itself really, I remember from the very first ECFA board member meeting that I attended, hearing about your event and feeling that this is such important work. So I also hope that by listening, that we're not simply listening and nodding, that we're also listening actively. One of the lines in the film that I hadn't even registered the first time I saw it, but at the very end when he calls for customers, I thought, finally I understand what people mean by finding your voice. It's a phrase I often don't like in this context, because I think people already have voices, it's just that we're not listening to them. But I felt that in this film, actually he did through his fairy, find his voice. And I guess I'm sort of thinking that, you know, this is helping us find our voices and find ways of thinking about how do we act on what we're hearing and what we're understanding about perspectives other than our own.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Wisely said. And I think that really is important perspective also from this from European children's film point of view. And also, as I work in film education and from education point of view, this is, of course, question of representation is very, very important. And I think earlier this day we were talking about, or somebody said something about film being very, very, very powerful tool in this work, in giving voices or making voices heard, but especially making people see different kinds of people, different kinds of representations. Obviously, film being a visual media, the seeing is very important, and I think that to be seen and is very fundamental need for all of us. And so we really need to have this ongoing discussion on who is seeing on screen, and that is our duty also as film educators.
And I think that's very interesting, because at some point the conversation has moved forward to this is a responsibility that I need to carry as an individual, acknowledging that there is a diverse world out there, and also that I have a role in that particular world. The way I meet people and the way that people meet me, and the prejudice or the lack of knowledge that I may have. I saw that you raised your hand. Esther, would you like to add something?
Just came to my mind that in the morning we began with the kindergarten screenings. And after the screening, the teacher was telling, did you like the film? Did you remember how was that fish without? Did you see that the fish didn't look like the other fish? And I thought, that, diversity. So the children said, yeah, we saw that, but for swimming, okay. So it's just that. It's not like the others, but swimming, okay, it's just okay. So children don't even see, if we speak about children's film, it's very important to begin with the very small children. And this diversity can be so simple thing as different fish. So I find it very important to do it with the children and to show them films that different people exist, and they feel they can feel bad if you bully them because they look different, they are a bit different, but however they exist, they feel, and this human aspect, I think you can teach, and the film is a very good tool in this.
Absolutely, and that actually takes me to this. We have already touched upon it a little bit, but I would like to hear a little bit more of your thoughts. Freedom. This is something that is maybe an umbrella theme, arguably, in this film, that you have the righteous access to living and leading the life that you want for yourself and building the identity that you want for yourself. I was wondering, maybe if I start with you, Farida, because I know you have a topic this year, not a divine punishment, but a blessing. How is that related to this idea of freedom and righteous access?
Yeah. For the very first thing, this year's topic is about being captured and being prisoned. There is no freedom in it, actually, if you think about it. Because in reality, many people, for generations, the disabled people have been stigmatized. Mm-hmm. They have been, all kinds of bad things you can think of in the society. They have gone through that. And through generations, if you go back in time, whether it was sometime in 1910 or 1950 or 1820, the disabled did not have a good life. There was no accessibility. There was no freedom. But during time, things have kept on changing. And some things got the better in some places, and other places, people are still living in 1825. And that brings us back to our year's topic. Most of the people, as you saw the very first movie you saw about ableism, you heard all those voices. They need to be seen and loved. They are not accepted in their own societies. Why? It's because of taboos. What can we do to create awareness about taboos? It's a very simple message. She says, I'm beautiful. Okay? Can't you just accept that? And what does it mean to be beautiful? Why should I live up to your expectations? Why should I look like what you think is beautiful? So if you talk about freedom, I would like, if I explain what freedom means, I would like to be accepted for who I am. Okay? If I am walking or speak a little bit awkward, I would like to be accepted for that. If I am a girl who can't put on a dress, it's okay. I would like to be free and beautiful. But can you accept that? Now that's the biggest challenge we have today.
And just to come to freedom, this woman in the film, the old lady who was never free to do what she wanted to do. Her first thing is when she gets that bird to let the bird fly, so that let it be free.
And it also maybe shows the importance of collaboration in order to open up the idea of what you said, Farida, beauty, to those who may not necessarily rest on the definition of diversity. The definition of diversity is not one person, but it's the sum of and the collective of all of us together, and the different parts that makes me, and you, and us together that really is the definition of what diversity is. And that also maybe shows, I can see that you...
Yeah, just think about freedom, because it's a complex word, and in this film also freedom is part of belonging to someone and be part of a society, to be accepted as you are talking about, Farida. But also it's fascinating that what she wants to do is to work, which we in our privileged society don't really necessarily think of as freedom. But of course
meaning.
It's a important thing to be part of something bigger and to be needed in some sense.
And in terms of the perspective of younger children and the fact that there is some responsibility in what they're being shown, sometimes, I know for me at least, what was very compelling was the fact that it's not only about the person living with some kind of difficulty, but it's also the people around and how their reality is affected by the reality of the people that they love. I don't know if maybe you have any thoughts on that, especially from the perspective of the youngest.
I mean, I think one of the things that the film really affected me. It's funny because this is the second time I saw it, but I think Maria saw me like having to mop my face even more than the first time. And I think part of that was because, so we are getting it's quite a different idea of freedom, isn't it? It's this sort of freedom of imagination, and what is being imagined is actually quite humble and gentle and not, so we have, I mean, I'm sure everybody has these shows, these kind of big talent shows, and it's all this kind of idea of you can live your dreams and you can do anything you want to. And for me, this really, in a very subtle way, but it really challenged that kind of notion that we want success because we want to rise above others. It was much more, as you said, Amal, it was more about being part of a community, and the kind of the idea of the perspective of the young person was, I mean, this was an incredibly perceptive young person. She, you know, the character who
Wanaka.
Yeah, she's watching the boss, and she's watching our kind of magic fairy, and she's kind of noticing and paying attention, and she helps us have a perspective. I thought, you know, and this is not unfamiliar to me. You know, for all of us that work with children, it's often a particular perspective that will, yeah, of course, that kind of seeing things from a range of perspectives. So and I thought that was really nice. It really troubled the idea of you know, there is only one way to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to add?
Yeah, well, to that notion of community, which you mentioned, is obviously very important, and in this film, especially, I think the important theme or quality in the film is that depiction of a human connection between different kind of people, different ages, the cross-generational connection, and how it really depicts actual like human beings and not the individuals who are representing some group, but they are actually like individuals on their own and human beings. And I think that's also one beautiful quality in the film. And yeah, about what you said about this young person, this how perceptive she is, and how that's also very often quality of children. When children are very perceptive, they are very open, and I think if I go now again back to education and film and art education, I think one important thing we should do is to try to foster that quality in children, so they would keep open-minded and perceptive. And I think that's one thing that film and art can give.
Thank you for that perspective. I noticed that time is flying, so I thought we could round it up. At the end of the film, we see the cherry blossoms, and to me, they gave me a sense of hope that we're moving forward in some way or another. So I thought I would love to hear everyone's one thing that they would encourage those around them or those who are watching to do in this path moving forward, especially in connection to bringing awareness on this topic. So if I start with Becky?
That's probably good, because then I don't have to struggle to come up with something that everybody else has already said. I think for me, it's the if we're thinking about that kind of idea of hope that these kinds of brave spaces to talk are opening up more, and that we listen. And I think particularly from the perspective of ECFA, that I'm sure we have lots to listen to and lots to act on, but that this is a hopeful place to be in.
Mario?
Yeah, well, that was quite well said. I don't know if I have anything to add. But obviously this kind of film is a very good starting point for reflecting on your own ideas and thoughts, because it's really gives that space for audience, and it's hopeful place to start.
Esther?
Yes, I think that we have a week called Awareness Week. So, Farida, we do a lot to do this job, and maybe you could tell what Awareness Week means.
When it's my turn, may I speak now?
I will go back and then I'll go to you.
Okay, then I can't wait then.
Yeah?
I can't wait. Julia, please, go ahead.
Okay. Hope. I think it's very important to listen and to open up. I think it's also important to recognize that children usually, even though they can be cruel to each other, I think they often a lot less fördomsfull. Prejudiced. Than we are as adults, and I think we can learn a lot from that, because sometimes I'm not really sure if it's clever to question that much about diversity when they are in kindergarten, but just respect that, because they are so used to diversity, and people are different in all the sense, and they learn a lot. And if they learn to recognize it all the time, it's we, the adults, that teach them that that's something to pick on or recognize. But what they are seeing is a diverse world, and I think we should learn from the children and listen to other people.
And it reminds me very much of the notion that at the end of the day, you want to be met with dignity and equality, and you want to be seen or have the same rights as everyone else. So I'm going to lead to you, Farida, the last one, the cherry blossoms, hope moving forward. If there is anything that you would encourage those who are watching here or those who are watching behind the screen, what would it be?
Yeah, hope. For me, hope means a very big thing. It means life itself. As long as you live, there is hope. So I would try to tell everybody else, first of all, we are hope, all of us who are sitting here. and those who are watching behind the camera, as you picked up something today, so you can move it on to somebody else. That's hope. And hope, again, as long as you live, that means you have an opportunity to advocate for others. And I would like very much to everyone to engage into this. Our awareness week, Bloom has an awareness week. And this is during the film festival. I've been traveling all over whole Norway, trying to promote awareness week so that the children who are disabled can be seen, heard, and appreciated wherever they are. And that is hope in itself. By we sitting here, screening movies, inviting people, and streaming our events, this is all hope. So hope is among us and it lives within us. So I encourage everyone to keep that in faith.
Thank you. And with that, I will close with a quote from the youngest character in the movie, Wanaka. Now that I've heard some of the tools or recommendations and encouragements that you have, this is a promise between me, you, and the moon. Good night.